Last week I had started on my second draft of this novel, and the way I'm going about it is I'm printing it out and retyping it, and then whatever comes to mind, I get down. It's been helpful so far. So I really feel a kinship to my typist women. So this is the prologue, I know, right? We type 100 words per minute, and we don't miss a syllable. Our identical desks are each equipped with a mint-shelled Royal Quiet Deluxe typewriter, a black Western electric rotary phone, and a stack of yellow steno pads. Our fingers fly across the keys. Our clacking is constant. We pause only to answer the phone or to take a drag of a cigarette. Some of us have managed to master both without missing a beat. The men arrive around 10. One by one, they pull us into their offices where we sit in small chairs pushed into the corners. They sit behind their large mahogany desks or pace the carpet while speaking to the ceiling. We listen. We record. We are their audience of one for their memos, reports, write-ups, lunch orders. Sometimes they forget that we're there, and we learn so much more. Who's trying to box out whom? Who's having an affair? Who's in and who's out? Sometimes they refer to us not by name, but by hair color or age or body type. Blondie, red, granny, tits. We have our secret names for them too. Grabber, coffee breath, teeth. They call us girls, but we are not. We come to the agency by way of Radcliffe, Vassar, Smith. We are the first daughters of our families to earn degrees. Some of us speak Mandarin, some can fly planes, some of us can handle a Colt 1873 better than John Wayne on a good day. But all we were asked when the agency interviewed us was, "Can you type?" It's been said that the typewriter was built for women, that to make the keys sing requires a more delicate, feminine touch, that our narrow fingers are best suited for the device. While men laid claim to cars and bombs and rockets that could one day take one of their own to the moon, a typewriter was a machine of our own. It's been said that a woman is best suited for work behind a typewriter because of her inherent ability to be quiet and to listen. Well, we don't know about all that. But we will say that as we type, our fingers become seamless extensions of our brains with no delay between the words coming out of their mouths, words they told us not to remember, and the keys slapping black ink into white paper, filling page after page. And when you think about it like that, about the mechanics of it all, it's almost beautiful, poetic, almost. Did we want to be typists? Did we aspire to tension headaches and sore wrists and increasingly bad posture? Is it all that we dreamed of when we studied twice as hard as the boys did in high school? Or what we had in mind when our college acceptance letters came in fat envelopes? Or where we thought we'd be headed as we sat in white wooden chairs on the 50-yard line, capped and gowned, as our parents watched from the stands as we received a piece of rolled parchment paper that promised we were qualified to do so much more. It's hard to say, but we will say that if you were to come into headquarters, if you could come into headquarters, and see a woman in a smart green tweed suit following a man into his office, or a woman wearing red heels and a matching Angora sweater at reception, you might assume that these women were typists or secretaries. And you would be right, but you would also be wrong. We all type, but some of us do more. We speak no word of the work we do after we cover our typewriters and leave each day. Unlike some of the men, we can keep our secrets. We are the ones who record. They are the ones who redact. Chapter 1, Washington, D.C., 1957. For most of us, the job in the typing pool was temporary, the first step to something bigger but still yet undefined. We wouldn't admit it aloud, even to each other, but many of us believed that this would be the first rung on the ladder to achieving what the men already had. Agency officers with their own offices, with lamps that gave off a soft, flattering light, plush rugs, wooden desks, with our own typists taking our dictations. We thought of it as a beginning, not as an end, a possibility despite what we had been told all our whole lives. Other women came to the agency not to start their careers, but to round them out. Leftovers from the old OSS days where they had become legends. Now, after the war, they became relics, regulated to the typing pool or the records department or some desk in some corner where they sat with nothing to do. We think of Betty. 10 years ago, she was running Black Ops, striking blows at opposition morale by planning newspaper articles and dropping propaganda fires out of airplanes. We once heard that she had provided dynamite to a man who blew up a resource train as it passed over a bridge somewhere in Burma. We can't be sure of what's true and what isn't. Those OSS records had a way of going missing after the war, but what we did know is that Betty sat at a desk along with the rest of us, and that the Ivy League men who were once her colleagues during the war were now her bosses, our bosses. We think of Virginia, sitting at a similar desk, her thick yellow cardigan wrapped around her shoulders, no matter the season. We think of her one fuzzy slipper underneath her desk, no need for the other. Her leg had been amputated after a childhood hunting accident. Word was that she named the prosthetic leg Cuthbert, and she'd take it off and hand it to you if she had one too many martinis. Virginia never spoke of her time in the OSS, and if you didn't hear the stories about her spy days secondhand, one would think that she was just another aging government girl. But we've heard the stories, like the time she disguised herself as a milkmaid and led a herd of cows and 1 or 2 French resistance fighters to the border to face the Germans. How the Gestapo once called her the most dangerous of the Allied spies, Cuthbert and all. Sometimes Virginia would pass us in the hall and we'd share an elevator ride with her, and we wanted to ask her about her stories, about her days fighting the Nazis, about whether or not she still thought of those days while she sat at a desk waiting for the next war or for someone to tell her to go home. Rumor had it that they're trying to push the old OSS girls out, that they had no use for these women in this new Cold War, that their fingers, which once pulled triggers, are now better suited for the typewriter. We think of Betty, we think of Virginia, we think of Julia, Sharon, and Joyce, and Elizabeth. We think of them all. But who are we to complain? It's a good job. And it's certainly more entertaining than most government gigs. Department of Agriculture, Interior, could you imagine? The 6th floor of the Soviet division became our home. And just as the agency was known as the Boys Club, we formed our own group. We were stronger together. Plus, the commute wasn't that bad. We'd take a bus or a streetcar in bad weather, and on nice days we'd walk. Most of us lived in the neighborhoods bordering DC's downtown, Georgetown, DuPont Circle, Cleveland Park, Cathedral Heights. We lived alone in walk-up studio apartments so small one could lie down and touch both walls head to toe. Oops. Or we lived in one of the last remaining border houses with lines of bunk beds and a 10 o'clock curfew, but only until we had enough money to get out. We often had a roommate, another government girl who had a name like Betty or Peg or Agnes, who were always leaving their pink foam curlers in the sink or peanut butter remnants stuck to the back of the butter knife or a used sanitary napkin not properly wrapped up in the small wastebasket next to the sink. Sometimes we'd pair up and live together, but that arrangement never ended well for the same reasons Betty or Peg or Agnes annoyed us, but this time there was no escape from them during the day. We'd warn anyone posting a seeking arrangement ad up on the break room bulletin board that it was always better not to shit where one ate. But what can you do? They always figured it out for themselves, eventually. Only Linda Murphy was married back then, and only just married. The Marys never stayed long at the job. Some of them stuck it out until they were pregnant, but most of the time, as soon as the engagement ring was slipped onto their fingers, they started to plan their departure. We'd have Safeway sheet cake in the back break room to see them off, sometimes a sip or two of cheap sparkling wine. The men would come in for a slice and say that they would be sad to see them go, but oftentimes we'd catch that slight glimmer in their eyes, betraying their excitement for the newer, younger girl who'd take her place. We'd promise to keep in touch, but after the wedding and the baby, they settled down in the furthest corners of the district, places one would have to take a taxi or 2 buses to get to, places like Bethesda or Alexandria. Maybe we'd come for the baby's first birthday party, but anything after that was unlikely. There was a poll going around the typing pool that Linda would be pregnant by New Year's. But most of us were single, choosing to put our careers first and constantly having to tell our parents that the choice was not a political statement. Sure, they were proud of us when we graduated college, some even making the trip out east from Fresno or Madison or Cleveland to see us collect our diplomas. But with each passing year spent on our careers instead of building a family, they grew increasingly confused about our state of husbandlessness and their strange decision to live in a city built on swamp. And sure, In the summer, DC's humidity was thick as a shower curtain, mosquitoes tiger-striped and fierce. Our curls done up the night before would deflate as soon as we stepped out of the protection of the air conditioner, if one was lucky enough to have one. The streetcars and buses felt like toaster ovens, but smelled so much worse. Apart from toweling off after a cold shower, there was never a moment when one felt less than sweaty and disheveled. The winter months didn't offer much reprieve either. We'd bundle up, camisole blouse, sweater, coat, scarves, gloves, hat, and we'd rush from our bus stops with our heads down to avoid the wind that whipped off the Potomac. But in the fall, and then again in the spring, the city became alive. The trees along Connecticut Avenue looked like fallen orange and red fireworks, and the temperature was finally bearable. No need to worry about our blouses being soaked through at the armpits. The hot dog vendors would add chestnuts to their menus and would serve them in small paper bags, the perfect amount for an evening walk home. The spring brought cherry blossoms and busloads of tourists who'd walk the monuments and pluck the pink and white flowers off the trees, tucking them behind an ear or suit pocket. The fall and spring in the district was a time to linger. And then in those extended moments, we stopped and sat on a bench or took a detour into the park. Sure, inside East Street's office, the fluorescent lights cast everything in the harshest glow, illuminating the shine on our foreheads and the pores on our noses and the dark roots in between salon appointments. And it was always too hot or too cold, no matter what the weather was like outside. But when we left for the day, and the warm wind would hit our bare arms, when we chose to walk the long walk home through the National Mall, it was in those moments that the city on Swamp became a postcard. When thinking about our agency days, remember the sore fingers, the aching wrists, the endless memos, reports, and dictations. We typed so much, some of us even dreamed of typing. Even years after, men we shared our beds with would remark that our fingers sometimes twitched in our sleep. In the office, remember looking at the clock every 5 minutes on a Friday afternoon. Remember the paper cuts, the scratchy toilet paper, and the way the lobby's marble floor smelled of bleach on Monday mornings, and how our shoes skidded across them for days after they waxed. Inside the office, the night light never changed unless one of the overhead bulbs burnt out. The strip of windows that lie in the far end of the main room were too high to look out over from our desk and see what was happening outside. All we could see was the gray building across the street, which looked exactly like our gray building. We'd speculate what the typists were like in that building across the street. What did they look like, and what were their lives like? And did they look out of their window and see our gray building and ever wonder about us? Whether it was 10 or 4, the light always stayed the same. The only exception was when a storm came and the light would darken and the sky would open up and the windows would streak with condensation. We liked thunderstorms best. The boom and the crack that would stop us from typing and force us to look up. Sometimes the lights went out and everyone groaned, but secretly we loved the momentary pause from work while we waited for the generator to kick in. Back then, those days felt so long and specific, but now they all started to blend together. We couldn't tell you whether the Christmas party where Henry Renette spilled red wine all over the front of his shirt and passed out at reception with a note pinned to his lapel that read, "Do not resuscitate," happened in 54 or 56. Nor did we remember Polly Falcon was fired from the typing pult because she let a visiting station agent take nude photos of her in the second floor conference room. Or if she was promoted because of those photos and fired shortly after because of some other reason we can't recall. But there are some things we do remember, things sealed in our collective memories that even now in remembering feel like watching a movie in Technicolor for the first time. The way the world once seemed one way, and then how it all changed with the start of the credits, when Dorothy landed in Oz, when everything suddenly made sense. Thanks.